Welcome in everyone to another edition of Driven by COMTO. This is a special edition of Driven by COMTO because we are broadcasting, you can say, live from the 55th National Meeting and Training Conference. We're here on the Independence level of the Grand Hyatt. This is where our exhibit hall is and our beautiful COMTO Museum and COMTO store. We're about a few days into the National Meeting and Training Conference, and it's been an engaging 3 days so far of conversation, real dialogue, real collaboration, and celebration with the COMTO family. So we have a member of our COMTO family with us who is kindly sponsoring our Founders Museum and the History Museum, which also includes Studio 71. So Johnell Bell from Espousal Strategies, thank you for joining us for this special edition. How are you?
I'm so happy to be here. You know, every single time this conference happens, I walk away with just being rejuvenated. It's more than just a conference where you kind of interact and you go to policy discussions. It's really a family, as you indicated. So it's just great to be amongst family.
And I should mention, we have so many members of our family here as well. This is a live studio audience. And so we actually have attendees who are here, if anyone may have heard the applause, when that wasn't like a soundtrack.
Yeah.
It was real life applause.
Real life, yeah.
We didn't put a cue sign and say applause now.
Did not.
So this is a leadership podcast, and this is a bit of a throwback because we are honoring our legacy here for the 55th. And we discovered as we were going through the archives that there was once a Studio 71.
Wow. Yeah.
So we said, why don't we bring Studio 71 back? And we launched the podcast ahead of time, leading up to the 55th. And I said that would be a great synergy of having this throwback to Studio 71 and our new podcast, our new leadership podcast. Sure. So our first question that we always ask folks on Driven by COMTO is, what drives you?
Well, let me just step back and first say that congratulations to you and the whole COMTO team for such a phenomenal conference. I know how much work it takes to bring together folks from all across the country. And what really drives me is the spirit of what COMTO really represents, which is how do we leverage infrastructure to better our communities. Ultimately, infrastructure is really not about concrete or steel, but it's really about the economic opportunity that these projects and this industry really represents. And as I think about the work that we get to really work in, it's about how do we work with our communities to really advance these projects in a way that is meaningful, that's intentional. And so what drives me is really the spirit of our communities and how these industries can really shape career trajectories.
So Espousal Strategies has been, operating for about 7 years now.
Yeah.
On the West Coast. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yes,
thing
round
I've
of
ever done, let me just
applause.
say.
It's not an easy feat,
It
right?
is not.
To start a small business in this climate, especially, and to thrive.
Yeah.
But looking at your body of work, I mean, you really go through transportation, education, health, public health. Yeah. What's the intersection, what's the through line with all of those different industries?
Well, we always like to say we are the people side of projects. And the through line for me, I mean, the reason why I've got into this kind of work is for 18 years, I worked for members of Congress, I worked for elected officials, and I was always being lobbied by folks who did not reflect the communities that I came from, was not really focused on the projects that my communities really cared about. And I think the through line for me is, I think about when I started Espousal, the last conversation I had with my mother before she passed was, you're not going to be happy until you start your own business. And I pondered that, and there's a Bill Withers song that says, good things come to those who wait, but not to those who wait too late. She had just passed, and I was walking on the beach, and that song came on, and I was like, okay, now's the time. And so the through line for me is really about how do we leverage this multi-billion-dollar albeit perhaps trillion-dollar industry, in a way that really uplifts communities. The projects that we tend to work on are consequential projects. They happen to be the most vexing political projects. And it's all through the lens of how do we create workforce development opportunity, how to create economic opportunity, whether we're talking about DBE or MBE or SBE, and how do we really create, which is why we've been so thrilled to sponsor the youth internship program for many years, how do we really make sure that our young people understand that these jobs and positions they have access to. So that's the through line for me, is really the notion that we can leverage infrastructure to advance our communities.
I want to go back to your mom. And I'm not going to do a Barbara Walters. You just talked about it, but you know, we have to follow that theme. So many of us wouldn't be where we are without a push from someone who believed in us and believed in what we didn't think was possible in that very moment. Right? Someone who had a vision. How much does your mother impact, and your mother's legacy impact what you do every day and how you do it?
Well, she's the heartbeat of Espousal. My mother was a black woman in the Pacific Northwest who was an engineer without an engineering degree. She was a computer scientist, and she spent her 30 years career working for, Mama Bell, US West, and then eventually Quest Communications, and built some of the first mainframes. In fact, they thought that she had cheated on her tests because she was a black woman, and they made her retake her tests, and she scored all A's yet again. And so the spirit of her perseverance, her high expectations of her kids, carries through everything that we do.
It's beautiful. This is a little bit of a rapid fire round, I guess. What's the best career advice you've ever received that still motivates you to this day, and the worst career advice?
Well, the best career advice I always got from a mentor was always have a good doctor and a good attorney. So let me just say, that has served me well, because you never know. And the worst career advice probably was to stay within a particular lane. Because, had I heeded that call, I would have never started a business. I perhaps would not have taken some of the risks that I have taken. Starting a business is significant risk. Hiring employees, hiring your first employee is one of the scariest things a small business could do. And ultimately, I think oftentimes people give advice based on their own perspective and own lens. And oftentimes we just have to open up that lens a little bit more.
I think some of the best leaders, and you're among them, are self-aware. You know how you move and show up in a room, and you adapt to who you're communicating with. Knowing that and having a little self-reflection, what is your greatest strength and your greatest challenge?
Well, my greatest challenge is management, let me just say. I should not manage, I know that for sure. Greatest strength is setting a visionary kind of overall strategic guidance. The reality is, I think, when you start a business, you're often used to being both the chef and the sous chef. And it's really learning over a period of time how to let go, frankly, and how to really entrust your staff and your teammates to take on the mantle and those responsibilities. And we're almost 8 years in, and that is a continued learning. But I also would say my greatest strength is not being fearful. The reality is, I always like to say, you miss 100% of the shots that you don't take. And in order to be competitive, I think, as a small business owner, you have to be willing to adapt. When I first started this firm, I thought we would solely be focused on kind of lobbying, government relations. Well, we had to quickly pivot And as a result of that, we've sustained over a period of time.
Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Johnell Bell from Espousal Strategies.
Thank you.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
That was
Appreciate
great. If you like what you heard, follow Driven by COMTO so you can get your next dose of leadership lessons in about 15 minutes. You can follow us on Spotify or wherever you get your podcasts. Until next time, I'm Delia Gonçalves. Stay driven.